We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Navigating the Astrological Matrix. I am your host, I am your guide, I am your mediator, your translator, your navigator, Robert Phoenix. It is Wednesday, and we are halfway through the month of November, almost through the month through the sign of Scorpio. Let's punch up the data here. 24 degrees Scorpio. That's where the sun is. Venus has begun to separate itself from Mercury just a bit. It's at 17 degrees. Mercury is at 16 degrees. Both are in the sign of Sagittarius. We're still getting the Sagittarius effect, and the truth is coming out in strange and interesting ways. If you haven't been following the Penn State scandal, the scandalous Penn State scandal, more truth is emerging through the cracks of this really tragic experience in the American landscape. Not just tragic, but also horrific. Apparently, Joe Paterno, just came out that Joe Paterno sold his house to his wife 4 months ago for $1. $1 in love and affection. Now, some people will say, well, he was just planning for the future. He's an old guy. Well, there seems to be the sort of the common perception is that Paterno knew this was coming. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to protect the equity in his house and put it in his wife's name. Therefore, she would not be, if they went after Paterno, they wouldn't go after his wife. Let's put it that way. His wife would be hermetically sealed in terms of legal action. So he took measures to protect his property 4 months ago. Also, it's important to note that Joe Paterno got his 409th win as the head coach of Penn State, which was the record for most wins out of any other player in the history of the NCAAs in college football. And the week after is when the scandal broke. So they got Paterno his record, and then the scandal breaks. And I don't know if you've heard Jerry Sandusky and the interviews that he's done. They're pathetic. They're absolutely pathetic. Bob Costas, who's actually a pretty good interviewer, asked Sandusky twice. He had to ask him twice if he was sexually attracted to young boys. And Sandusky had to repeat the question back to Costas. Now, anytime I'll give you a little insight into the human condition and how people will operate. Anytime anybody repeats a question back to you, you're trying to buy time to come up with the right answer. It's that simple. And that's what Sandusky was trying to do. And he admitted to taking showers with kids. He admitted to, touching. I mean, he basically said, I've done all these things, except I haven't had sex with them. Now, come on, please. Jerry's kids. The other thing that's come out around this is that the judge so Sandusky, check this out, Sandusky was charged with 40 counts of child molestation. 40 counts. And his bail was $100,000 non-secured. He didn't have to put down a single cent. He listed his house as equity. That was it. Think about that. 40 counts of child molestation. $100,000 unsecured bail. Well, guess what? Turns out that the judge that granted him that bail is a volunteer on the Second Mile, part of the Second Mile Foundation. Volunteer. So there's a connection between Sandusky and the judge that gave him a very soft bail. So this is all part of the Sagittarian experience right now. Mercury and Sag, Venus and Sag. We're seeing that come out. Chiron, 0 degrees. Pisces. Mars, 2 degrees. Virgo. So we're seeing opposition, fast-moving opposition with Mars and Chiron right now. That opposition would have occurred about a day ago, 2 days ago, actually. We have to go back in time to look at that opposition to see, if it made sense. Right now, Mars and Jupiter are in an exact trine, which is cool. We like that. Get a lot of work done today. Mars and Virgo is going to be a very productive period. If you want to get a lot of work done, Mars and Virgo is going to be the tonic for the troops. So we're going to talk more about Mars in just a couple of minutes with Molly Hall from About.com. And in the second part of the show, I'll be, there's a 515. Let me just shut this down. There you go. Hold on a second. We're going here. I ran out of Skype notes. I'll have to take a short break. You're ringing from my cell. Okay. So Molly is we're negotiating here. Just trying to get her on, make sure she's doing her thing. Hold on a second. It's hard when you don't have a producer in-house. Just acknowledging her back. There we go. And done. All right. So we're going to have Molly Hall from About.com on in a couple of minutes, and we're going to be talking about Mars and Virgo. And, it's going to be there for 9 months. It's going to be in the sign of Virgo for 9 months. It just moved Regulus, fixed star Regulus, just moved into Virgo as well. So we had Regulus at 29 degrees, the anaretic degree of Leo, moving out of its sign. Theoretically, Regulus was opposing Neptune in Aquarius. So we'll talk more about that opposition with Molly and what that was like. I've got my own sort of take on that. We'll save that. So we're going to learn more about Regulus. We're going to learn more about fixed stars today. It's something that Molly has been getting into, and I've been spending some time with the whole fixed star system myself. I'm a little. I think it's interesting. I think the fixed star experience is interesting. I wouldn't say I'm leery of it, only because the last time I had Rob Tillett on the show, he went on and on about sheet, S-H-E-A-T, sheet, and what a terrible star it is. He said just the nastiest star you could have, or the nastiest star in the sky was sheet. Well, I have sheet in my fixed star chart. Go figure. It's in my latter years, and it's in a curtailed passage, which is even more problematic. So, but I've got some other good stuff happening. It's not all bad. So Molly will be on here, and oh look, speak of the angel. I think she's arrived. Let's see if this is her. Our guest of the hour, Molly Hall from AboutAstrology.com. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Robert.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Good. My Shandor set up a microphone for me this time.
I like it. You're coming through loud and clear.
Good. That's how I want to come through when Mars and Jupiter are aligned.
I know they are doing a nice intimate little tango right now, aren't they?
They are, and I can feel it. I can. I went outside just before I dialed you. I just wanted to stand on the earth, and I think it has everything to do with aligning with the bigger story of the earth. And that's one reason why, I was telling you in the email that I wanted to pull back a little bit from social networking because it's all in the head.
Yeah.
A lot of it. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm going through a pretty interesting, Saturn phase in my chart right now. It's Saturn's exact. It's pretty close to being exact on my Venus, and it's been doing a sweep through my 11th house. Started with the Moon, hit Mercury. Now it's on Venus. It's a pretty intense cycle, actually. I mean, not bad. I mean, it's getting better. I mean, the longer Saturn has hung out in my 11th house, and going across all my deeply personal planets, the easier it's been. At first, it was just pure calamity when it hit my Moon. It was like it was very intense, and I've been challenged a lot with relationships. Just to sort of throw this out there to people, and maybe I know some of my friends and the people that follow the site online. On Halloween, so check this out, Molly. On Halloween, Day of the Dead, I got an email from my ex-wife notifying me that she's going to get remarried to her boyfriend, fiance, and which means that my son is going to have a stepfather now, right? So that whole thing was really rocked my. I mean, I knew it was coming eventually. I wasn't necessarily prepared for it, but if you look at the timing, Day of the Dead, end of a particular cycle for me, the death of my family, what I considered my family in some ways, right?
Right.
And having to deal with now Saturn on Venus, having to be harmonious and balanced for the sake of my son, right? I mean, I may not necessarily like quote unquote what happened in my marriage or whatever. I mean, that's got to be water under the bridge right now because you got this kid who's being he's 7 years old and he's being like shifting through worlds, and now I've got to employ that Saturn in Libra. And it's been challenging, I have to say it's been a real challenging exercise, but it got better halfway through this dance between Saturn and Mercury and the Moon and Venus. I stopped drinking, and it wasn't like a terrible. I didn't have like a huge drinking problem. I had maybe a couple of glasses of wine every night or every other night, but it was starting to accumulate over the years. So when Saturn, hit my Mercury, I just said enough, and that was back in July, and